Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join me as I share with you a few highlights about the new book I wrote, the Clinician's Codependency Treatment Workbook. So I'm Nancy Johnston. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a licensed substance abuse treatment practitioner in Virginia. I have been practicing 47 years. 36 of those years, I have been both personally and professionally studying codependency and working with it with clients and trying to understand it both through office work, workshops, retreats, staying on top of current literature and my own training. And all of that work is pouring into this workbook that is here today. The field codependency first showed up in alcoholic family systems. Showed up is not quite the right word. We first identified what we understand about codependency in alcoholic family systems. And now, as we are understanding it more, and I'll get to that in a moment, we're seeing it as an undercurrent that can be under anxiety, depression, relationship problems. So helping clinicians be more attuned to what it looks like is our mission and what this book is helping us to do. I love the title they gave this encounter today, Demystifying Codependency. So let me go straight to demystifying it in our conversations here today. Research is showing us that codependency involves a dominant external focus. That external focus can show up in a number of ways. It can be that we are focused on other people and what they need, how to fix them, how to make things better for them. It can be that we're focused outside of ourselves for how I am. This is where the word dependent can come in. My sense of self depends on what you think of me here today. It depends on how well I believe people, are responding to me, rather than me also knowing how to have a compassionate and attuned connection with myself that is really becomes a safe haven for me. So codependency is about that external focus. And I have several language ways I also express that in the workbook, which has a whole section on this demystifying, on conceptualizing codependency. I also speak of it as dominant other-centeredness. We know what self-centered is, but other-centeredness. And I really want to be clear, the work is not about moving from other-centeredness to self-centeredness, but it is about developing within self at least the ability to connect with self and be in balance there. I speak of it as over-functioning for others and under-functioning for self. And I speak about it as loss of self in others. So a quick way that I love to work with codependency and have been known for it for decades are my circles. And again, because we have 15 minutes here today, I'm going to scoot you through these ideas very quickly. And the workbook completely has handouts and worksheets that are showing you all of these things. Two people, self, boundaries, self, boundaries. An enmeshed relationship is what we know, where the circles overlap and self is eclipsed, as I say. Usually, the people do not feel free to move out of this stuckness, okay? With codependency, we either are stuck by the interactions in the relationship or we have ourselves stuck there. An alienated relationship means that we are in the same spheres, but we're not interacting in meaningful ways. And then the healthy relationship we seek is where this is a self with boundaries and a self with boundaries. And with mutuality and respect for each other, we are able to interact, intersect, and be together, share as much space as possible, but keeping that connection with self all along and honoring the other person's sense of self all along so that we can have a flow in the interactional pattern there. I keep these circles handy in my office when I'm working with clients as a way of talking about this loss of self and, more importantly, what we're seeking. And so the beautiful graphics on this workbook are not just beautiful graphics, they are a translation of Nancy Johnston's circles. And circles show up in a number of ways in the handouts and ways that I visually teach this loss of self in others. So how is this workbook new? Pessy noticed the work I was doing. And until this workbook, most of work with codependency has been out in the self-help domain. We send folks to Al-Anon, to Nar-Anon. We recommend good books, all of which you can still do. But it was time to have a clinician's guide for how do you see it. And so the book is set up really for you as clinicians with conceptualizing, assessing, psychoeducation, and then a full treatment model there within it. Because again, we are moving codependency from self-help domains and starting to really clinically say, what is going on in this undercurrent? And that is that external focus that can be so dominant. Everything I do is put on spectrums, continuums from okay to too far. So please know that focusing on others is not wrong. It's only if it is imbalanced to the neglect of self. So why have we not gone this way until now? Let me put it a different way. What are reasons that challenge us in talking about codependency and assessing it in our offices? One, we don't know what we're looking for or how to define it. It's been broad, so this workbook is bringing it into focus. Two, and I honor this, we do not want to blame our clients. And codependency has had being in the field over all of these decades, from the 80s, 90s, and up till now. I say that we've had 3 eras of influence, and we're into the 3rd era of wanting to understand codependency, not in a way that makes the client feel blamed. And here's what I'm saying. When we're working with CBT and we're explaining to clients that their catastrophic thinking, their all or nothing thinking can be problematic and how they want to adjust it, I am suggesting we do the same thing as we identify this external focus, this other-centeredness. We simply educate our clients about it. We help them become self-aware, not only of that pattern, but of the things that are possible to get out of that pattern. How do these clients look? I will say that these clients show up. Here's just a short list. It can be parents of adult children with substance use disorders, parents of adult children who have returned home to live for some reason, adult children who were raised by parents with substance use disorders or who were narcissists. It can be caregivers in a family system where someone else has a chronic illness and or is aging in ways that need care and the balance can be off. It can be individuals with relational trauma, stuck in relationships, people who want to fix others, people who cannot, who want to control everything, and people who have difficulty saying no. These are not checklists to identify. These are trying to help you as a clinician say, oh, this client is presenting in these ways. So let me come back in and assess more with the client and understand their focus, their self other balance and the focus there. The workbook is also full. The second half is a whole treatment model, what I call self-recovery. The work I'm doing, I describe as from codependency to self-recovery. And I won't go into the elements of that. The workbook has a super detailed table of contents that you can just look through and flip to what you need for your client at that time. Today, I'm simply helping you become aware of this, to demystify, to realize that a dominant external focus and a dominant other-centeredness, an over-functioning for others, is a good reason to broaden your lens and join your client where they're at there for even deeper healing. So that's what I've got for you in our precious time here today. You will see the advertisement along with a QR code here. And I believe that my time is up. So I thank you so much for joining me and welcome any input or questions or comments as we join this really great clinical adventure together.
Nancy, I believe we've got some questions for you if you'd like to take some.
I will. I will.
I'll send those up.
Yes, a very good question. So how does trauma intersect with codependency? It intersects. When I'm working with a client, and this is a handout in the workbook, I have circles of influence that contribute to codependency. Individual, which is our basic nature and being. Family systems, which can be everything from family roles to trauma, traumatic experiences. The third layer are cultural, social experience. Trauma does invite us to disconnect from self. Trauma invites, it's not a safe place to be. So the workbook talks about using Eric Gentry's assessment for trauma, and depending on the level of it and the need, this model invites the use of any other trauma therapies. This workbook is really a complement with an E, to EMDR, to IFS, to deeper trauma work. And the more resolved and the more the person can access and recover from their trauma, I would say then the more they can use the material in this workbook. I understand that connecting with self can be a very threatening thing. And so trauma does need to be assessed and treated at the level that it presents. Any other questions, Cole? Oh, it's great. What are strategies outside of therapy to manage or reduce codependency tendencies? So I have several the four elements of treatment, there are four interlocking circles in self-recovery. Self-understanding, trauma would come into that. Self-awareness, which addresses this. Self-competence, which are skill building. Self-attunement, which is developing a secure attachment with self. So within this awareness, what I invite the clients to do are a number of things, but I would say that in between sessions, the more we can help them find 5 to 10 minutes to pause and connect with self through somatic practices or mindful breath, and then to tune in to what I call the 4 areas of self: thoughts, emotions, body, and spirit. Just do a scan through those areas to connect with self. What we're doing is connecting with self and then giving self space with what we hear to learn and know how to respond to self more effectively. So there are a lot of out of office practices, strategies, and exercises that I think are imperative. And I can take one more question, and then we have to stop here for the afternoon. How do I balance empathy and accountability when working with clients who exhibit codependent behaviors? Okay, so this is a great question in that it taps into the core treatment concept I have with me, and that is the client is their own expert and that they are growing into their own self as fast as they can. Al-Anon has this, maybe the broader 12-step programs have this great thing called we did the best we could for who we were at the time. And so, yes, I understand this question deeply. A client may leave and have every intention of creating a new boundary or a no. And those are good ideas, but we are now working with a deeper part of them that may or may not be ready for that. So they come back and they weren't able to do it. And I balance it with my understanding of joining the client where they are. And I'll stop with this right now. I do subscribe to the stages of change. And if pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, okay, and then maintenance, relapse. If I am not careful, I am at preparation and the client isn't even at preparation, they're at pre-contemplation. I'm sorry, contemplation, or they haven't even arrived there yet. So me realizing, oh, I'm not where they are and where are they helps me with empathy and accountability. I always want to empower them and help them not see me as the source of what they seek, but they seek it. They have it within. Thank you. And I know that's the end of our question time today. And I love the questions. It always helps to teach. I thank you for staying on.